Welcome to the 2019-2020 Annual Report and CEO Message. I'm Viv Cunningham-Smith and I'm the CEO of Eastern Volunteers. The theme of this year's annual report is the old normal, new normal, and we'll explore that with my management team. In the spirit of reconciliation, Eastern Volunteers acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. We meet in person today on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. When I thought about old normal and what that looked like in 2019, to me it was about the EV culture. And there are some pretty standard characteristics of that culture. We put community and people we serve at the core of everything that we do. We're inclusive. We celebrate diversity. We do a lot of stuff with a few resources. We're agile and flexible. We try new things. We love to try new things, but we also know our limitations. We're innovative. We laugh a lot and we work together. We like partnerships because we know we can't do it alone. We're also very clear about our purpose and the outcomes we want to achieve. We adapt to change, and we've been adapting to change over many, many years. We share. We like to contribute to the sectors we work in, such as community transport, volunteering, and the broader community sector. And we also lead. So when I came to think about, well, what does the new normal look like? The qualities of the EV culture haven't changed. They just actually went nuclear in March 2020. And our new normal was our old normal on steroids. We learnt lots of new things, and the work of Charles Cox in setting up the platforms over a number of years that suddenly we needed in March 2020 enabled us to move remotely. We learnt things like Zoom and Teams, and we learned it virtually overnight. We adapted our services and made sure we delivered for the community and those people who we serve. We worked as a team with agility and flexibility. My goodness, we were agile. And we turned ourselves inside out in order to maintain those much needed services in a time that was pretty scary and pretty different. But we also allowed ourselves the capacity to make mistakes and fix them. And I would like to congratulate and thank Board who have enabled us to come along on this journey in 2020. But excitingly, we saw new possibilities. And in 2021, we're going to take advantage of those new possibilities. So I'm going to say thank you to everyone and hand over to my team who have done an awesome job this year.
Hi, my name is Charles Cox and I'm the Manager of Corporate Services. What does that mean? Well, when people ask, I normally say that I don't actually do any of the wonderful things that EV does to support the community. I just try to make sure that the employees and volunteers who do that work have what they need to help make their jobs as easy as possible. In corporate services, we look after finance operations, building operations, systems and processes. Not all that exciting, but wonderfully diverse. In normal times, this would and did mean things like looking after key supplier relationships and tenancy relationships, and we made nearly $75,000 for the organisation through rental income from the building, which essentially made it cost neutral to manage, even through a disrupted year. Disrupted, I hear you ask, well, way of working was somewhat disrupted in early 2020. And the new normal that we shifted to with very little disruption showed just how strong the foundations of EV systems are. and that's something of which I'm immensely proud. In about a week, we went from pretty universal office attendance to working from home, and this was done almost seamlessly. I do say almost, because there were a bunch of processes that relied on people being together and exchanges of paper. And so a range of new processes were developed and written, covering areas including induction and accounts payable, amongst many others, that helped to continue the job that we were doing without exchanging bits of paper. And we all became experts in collaboration technologies, getting great use out of the foundations that Corporate Services laid a couple of years back in the move to Office 365 that helped our team stay connected in the most important ways. Our volunteers came and went as they normally would, but nevertheless provided sensational support in the changing landscape. And I want to thank them all for their wonderful work. So what does the future hold? Well, the old normal allowed us to do our jobs. The new normal has shown us how solid our foundations are, how adaptable our people are across all of EV, and what can be achieved with enough will. And the new normal that we look forward to in the next year will be an evolutionary place, a place where we finally make the break with paper records, where we give everyone who works with or at EV the flexibility to be productive as they can, and we have consistency in all that we do, supported by good systems. And we are a destination for training and a hub for the community organisations of the eastern suburbs. A time where EV takes bigger strides into an exciting future. Thank you all.
Hi, I'm Lee Barker, the Manager of the Volunteer Resource Services. June 2019 found us in a time of really focusing on building on what was gone before, ensuring our quality of what we did was really great, the best of assessments for those wanting to volunteer and the best of referral methods for those wanting volunteers, and to really speak into the wider community around volunteering. During this time, Anna Tate resigned as manager, and Jess Harrington did a fantastic job of actually just continuing as business as usual through until December with a real eye on quality. Alita Penny was actually really concentrating on building our Manningham Volunteer Resource Service, really digging deep into relationships with council, and also building into what community expectations were of a volunteer resource service, and to really look at changing the preset of what had been and to bring in a new, more interactive volunteer resource service. I came on board in January 2020 and was just really excited to see what was going on in the sector, and really excited about the programs on offer and how we were able to support the community. So with a real focus on supporting local council with Eastern Disability Advocacy Group, also Ready to Go program in the Yarra Range. There's lots of opportunities to get in deep. But as you know, COVID came, and COVID was a word that changed all our lives forever. By March, we were working remotely, and by no means being slack, but actually incredibly busy, and turning everything we did on its head as we responded in a real agile way to what the community was needing. It started with us having to take down over 500 ads that we were hosting at the time, as all recruitment stopped in the sector. But at the same time, realising that people wanted to help, people wanted to respond. So we very quickly set up a central volunteer bank in which we had 1,000 individuals that were by the hundreds deployed to essential volunteer roles across our 4 LGA areas and wider. We were able to connect whole community groups into meal delivery services that would have had to stop otherwise. We were able to have essential transport happening, essential volunteering happening across the sector. A lot of remote work was done, which was fantastic, but it was a really busy time within placing people into essential roles. What also happened though was that we built our profile in a way that we're supporting our councils and supporting our organisations. Our communities of practice became the place to be. They're essentially a network meeting, but they became the voice where we could host DHHS to speak directly into the needs of the community groups, to update them with what was needed from a government level to be active. Councils used it as a time to hear from their groups as to how they were needed to respond, and also to speak into them. And the agencies were able to share really important resources, and we were able to be the voice within that. The Eastern Disability Group had an online forum in this time about how to live life full in a COVID space for all abilities, and that was just fantastically received. So it was a time where we've had to pivot, we've had to change everything that we've done, but we have remained strong and we've remained a loud voice in this Eastern District for volunteering. And we have become a place that is agile and responsive. And I couldn't be any prouder of our team of what they've achieved in this time. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Marnie O'Loughlin and I'm the Transport Services Manager for Eastern Volunteers. I was asked, the old normal, but I've actually forgotten what it looks like. It went along the lines of people, transport, cars, special volunteers, and lots of kilometres. On track to deliver 22,500 trips in community across people that resided in the Yarra Ranges, Maroondah, and Whitehorse government areas. But let's not look back, because Cinderella would not have become a princess had she gone back to pick up her shoe. On the 25th of January, the COVID virus emerged, and 5 weeks later, we were all in lockdown. And like the Phoenix, we discovered our new normal. Almost overnight, we went to remote working arrangements. We had to design new processes and new ways to communicate whilst keeping transport running and active in community for essential health and medical appointments. This was no mean feat. We realised our client support needs had changed. It wasn't just transport. It was about accessing food and medicine and doing that in a way that didn't necessarily engage technology. We knew that time at home and time isolated out of community wasn't ideal for our clients, so it was important that we supported them socially. We partnered with Caledonia Dementia Care to pool our resources to be able to talk with all our client base, which amounted at the time to 1,400, and establish their individual support needs. We work closely with Victorian and Tasmanian Community Transport Association and other providers to share our learnings and disseminate government directives. We also partnered with Mullum Mullum Indigenous Gathering Place to deliver their food relief program to ensure the continued support during lockdown of the local Indigenous community. We continue to deliver transport, social support and food relief. We could not do this without the support of board, fellow managers and an incredible transport team, which is powered by our special volunteers. I could not be prouder to walk amongst people that have community at heart, who through their own challenges of COVID showed courage, resilience, compassion and care for the people that we serve each day. I thank you all and I cannot wait to see what next year brings.
And I am pleased to present my final report of the chair of the Board of Management of Eastern Volunteers. I would like to indicate that I have been involved with Eastern Volunteers since 2008 and had the privilege to see this beautiful organization evolve into such a substantial, innovative, and dynamic service that it is today. It is these qualities that saw Eastern Volunteers quickly and effectively adapt to the challenges of the COVID-19 this time last year in 2020. The Board of Management of Eastern Volunteers and our CEO had been working towards development of new sustainable services in 2019 and to position us to maintain our focus on supporting volunteer workforces and community organizations past the end of our Commonwealth contract in June 2021. The year 2020 was going to be one of consolidating the growth and development we had been undertaking since 2016, but also exploring new opportunities such as our new Eastern Volunteer Consulting Services. I am very pleased to report that Eastern Volunteer is seen now as a truly sector leader in volunteering, and this has seen our CEO to be appointed and recognized as such to the Ministerial Working Group on the Victorian volunteering strategy. Our CEO contributed to the volunteering community in her role as chair of the Victorian Volunteer Support Services Network. Volunteering is truly at the core of Easton Volunteers, and it continues to define who we are. We continue to provide quality community support services to people over the age of 65 years and those under 65 with barriers to accessing services and activities. Our services are critical to people being able to participate in their community and access those things which promote their health and well-being. Since 2016, when responsibility for aged care moved to the Commonwealth, our transport services had grown and changed to meet the new requirements of aged care. The Royal Commission recommendation will see us continue to adapt our service provision. We have a dedicated team of paid and volunteer staff who continue to deliver flexible and responsive services. Our theme for this year is old normal to new normal, and 2020 certainly brought us new challenges which changed our old normal. Our team adapted within a fortnight to COVID and the new restrictions. They completely repositioned how we delivered much needed services to the community. The board and I were extremely proud of the way our teams responded. Community transport could no longer be provided for anything but essential health appointments. So our team, under the superb management of Marnie O'Loughlin, created new services such as shopping and medications transport service. They experienced a significant loss of volunteer drivers due to the age range of our volunteers, and new volunteer workforces needed to be recruited. I will let Marnie to tell her story herself, but the Board of Management was very pleased to see how the continuity and quality of our transport services were able to be maintained so well. Our volunteering services under the management of Lee Barker went totally remote and created a COVID bank of 500 volunteers to June 2020 to redeploy to community organizations so they could keep their doors open to the community during this difficult time. Our volunteering communities of practice brought agencies together to learn about COVID-19, how they adapt to it, and to share their resources and expertise in responding to this awful pandemic. Easton Volunteer was certainly the backbone of the community sector during this period of time. Our corporate services under the superb leadership of Charles Cox enabled our entire workforce to virtually work remotely from day one of the crisis. This was due to Charles's meticulous planning for the innovation of our IT systems in 2019. Charles provided essential support for the transportation of our transport and volunteering services, ensuring that the infrastructure, both physical and human, could respond to remote working, new service provisions, and maintenance of team spirit. I am very pleased to be leaving Easton Volunteers in the good hands of such a board of management, our CEO, and the superb team that we have. This annual general meeting has been delayed to March 2021, and before I leave, I wish to acknowledge that from July 2020 to now, the work of Easton Volunteer has continued to expand, with a COVID bank of volunteers standing at 1,000 during a stage 4 lockdown, and our volunteer resource services being embedded in local government emergency responses. Our community transport continued to be flexible as lockdowns came and went, and as they began to recruit new workforce for driving and administration. I wish Eastern Volunteers and all of you the very best into the future. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Simon McKeon, patron of Eastern Volunteers, and I'm bringing you this recorded message at a time where 2021 is still to fully play out. But of course, we have all, as a community, been through 2020, which for virtually all of us was a year that we're very happy to say goodbye to. When we're in the midst of adversity, we have a choice. We can look around, see what everybody else is doing, or we can roll up our sleeves and act. We can retreat into a space that protects ourselves and our interests, hoping that everyone else is successful in doing the same, or we can reach out and support others in need, knowing that the combined strength of the community will see us all better placed to overcome the challenges that we face. As the global pandemic came to our shores a year ago, and necessary measures were taken to protect life and health, the lockdown of Melbourne presented as great a challenge to community as most of us have seen in our lifetimes. Eastern Volunteers had that choice to either conserve resources by shutting down operations in the hope that it would be able to reopen, while others risk much to keep us connected, or to seek ways in which they could create solutions that would be a real and tangible force to see us through those dark times into a new normal. I'm so very proud to say, as we get into 2021, that Eastern Volunteers stood up, stood strong, and created its own new normal through the toughest times of 2020 to provide service and support to all the communities in which it operates. It was, of course, necessary to stop the transportation of people in the community, excepting in very particular circumstances. In a world where people could not get out and go to services, and one where the clients of Eastern Volunteers Transport Service were among the most vulnerable in our community, the team moved within days to shift the focus to bringing services to their clients through pharmacy pickups, contactless shopping, and of course welfare calls. It's noteworthy that all of this was done without changing the personal interaction that the clients have with Eastern Volunteers. Clients could still call and speak to someone who would arrange their service for them, rather than having to adapt to an app or some impersonal online service. The transport team also reached out to other organisations using its fleet of vehicles to bring their services to their clients when they were not able to operate. In times of crisis, the need for community engagement is never greater, and with so many organisations closing doors, the Volunteer Resource Service team looked for ways to fill the desperate need that was emerging. Services to individuals needed resources. Individuals in the community were eager to help. The evident need was to bring these groups together in a coordinated, safe and efficient manner. EV's Volunteer Resource Service took the lead to develop a volunteer bank. It was the envy of much of the Melbourne volunteering community. Processes were shifted to allow people to quickly be identified as having the capacity to volunteer, and then connecting them with services that were in need of their skills. The Volunteer Bank has been a key part of sustaining local government and community services during this lockdown. And the Volunteer Resource Service team stood up as leaders and now continues to lead through to recovery. The challenges faced by community organisations came in many different guises, and I'd observe that there has been a decision that as at 30 June 2021, the Commonwealth Government will cease funding the work of the Volunteer Resource Services team to assist the disadvantaged in the community to find pathways to volunteering. It is a decision, of course, that will not only impact EV and the volunteering services sector as a whole, but also many in the community who would engage in volunteering to improve their health and wellbeing outcomes or open pathways to employment. Given the strength and resilience shown by Eastern Volunteers, I have complete confidence that this decision, while incredibly disappointing, will not mark an end to EV's work and will find new pathways that keep volunteering strong in our community. It wouldn't be normal for me to specifically mention individuals, but I think this past 12 months of tremendous achievement in a remarkable year, I think it is important to specifically recognise a handful. I start with Lee Barker, Manager of Volunteer Resource Services, and then Marnie O'Loughlin, Manager of Transport Services, and Vivian Cunningham-Smith, Chief Executive Officer, for their initiative, their leadership, and plain hard work. Their efforts have also been recognised formally with each department of Eastern Volunteers: Transport Services, Volunteer Services and Corporate Services, all three of them receiving Deakin Community Awards. An absolutely fantastic achievement. And along with mentioning those three, I really do want to congratulate each and every one of our volunteers, the board and employees at Eastern Volunteers who brought services to the community in the most challenging of times. And my hope is that throughout this tough 12 months, whoever you are, as I said, volunteers themselves, board members, employees, that not only did you know that you were doing an incredibly important work for the community, but most importantly, that you got something very positive out of it. It made you actually feel a better person, a person that was able to give of yourself in the most important of years. I'm proud that Eastern Volunteers did not choose to wait. It took the initiative. It chose to stand, lead, and make a difference. My sincere congratulations. Thank you.